Hey guys, KiraKennedy here with, after a while longer than I expected, my review of NXT Takeover Orlando, which aired live from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida on the WWE Network last week, April 1st, 2017. And my god, this was a good show. Unfortunately, I think it's safe to say that the tradition of the NXT Takeovers, blowing the following main roster pay-per-view out of the water, has come and gone. Because while this was a good show, I think it was an even better setup for WrestleMania 33, which had just some fantastic moments and some really good matches, minus a couple stinkers. But you hear more about that in a couple of weeks, because and that's kind of the reason why I'm not doing like a full WrestleMania Kira's Wrasslin vlog review. But with all that out of the way, let's get back to TakeOver and kick things off the way they kicked it off with the 8-person mixed tag team match. You had Sanity, the team of Eric Young, Alexander Wolf, Killian Dane, and Nikki Cross, taking on the team of Ty Dillinger, the debuting Ruby Riott, the former Heidi Lovelace, and Roderick Strong, as well as Cassius Ohno replacing No Way Jose, who'd been injured in an attack from Sanity earlier in the day at a WrestleMania Access event. This match was a solid way to start off the show. Had some good spots, like Ruby Riott, basically she went out and she hit a missile drop kick on the outside to, I think it was Nikki Cross, and she basically landed flat on her back on the outside. And while that's padded, that I can imagine that was probably one of the more brutal spots of the match. I will say Ruby seemed a little lost, like she hasn't fully adjusted to the WWE style yet, which is somewhat understandable. I mean, this is her first match since she's been signed to the WWE. Long story short, Sanity won after Ty Dillinger tried to hit the tiebreaker on Killian Dane, but Wolf hit Dillinger with a bicycle kick, allowing Dane to hit the Ulster Plantation, basically Kenny Omega's one-winged angel, on Dillinger for the 3 count. Now you'd think that would be where the feud would continue, but unfortunately, as you've seen on SmackDown, well, not unfortunately for some people, unfortunately for this feud, that seems to be the end of it, because Ty Dillinger has been called up to SmackDown. I don't know where he's going to be with this whole roster shakeup thing that's happening the Monday after I'm recording this, and probably after I post this. But yeah, it was a solid match, and there were some weak spots and stuff, but I've seen worse. After that, we had Andrade Cien Almas. I don't know why I have to say it with the accent, but it feels right for some reason. Taking on the debuting Aleister Black, the former Tommy End, who technically it's his second match in WWE because his first match was against Neville right before the finals of the UK Championship Tournament. And I will say this right off the bat, I love Aleister Black's entrance, I love his theme song. I just love the look of him. Like, just everything there screams metal as hell, and it just was really cool. Now, this was, as for the match itself, it was okay. For whatever reason, Andrade Cien Almas hasn't seemed to have had a good match since probably his debut match with Ty Dillinger at NXT Takeover The End back in June of last year. And I don't know who to blame that on, because for the one hand, Aleister Black, it seemed like he was holding back a lot on his kicks and his strikes, like he didn't want to hurt Cien by going 2 balls to the wall, and I think that was definitely a contributing factor here, though, and I remember that being a thing that really hurt Hideo Itami when he first got signed. But there were also some really, really cool spots. The most memorable that still sticks out in my head was Aleister Black was going for an outside dive, like a tope suicida or something, and Almas was beginning to step out of the way. So Black jumps on the rope, flips over, and lands in like a cross-legged position, a cross-legged seating position in the middle of the ring, which that was unique and very cool. In the end, Black won by hitting the Black Mass, which is a reverse spinning roundhouse kick that actually looks pretty cool. He hit that on Almas. And then we had the most memorable botch of the night. It didn't come from the wrestlers, didn't come from the match. It came from Nigel McGuinness, and this was probably the most interacted with tweet I'd ever had on my own Twitter. Because Nigel McGuinness said, "This man has a future here in Ring of Honor." Should we tell him that this isn't Ring of Honor? It was probably a slip of the tongue, and Triple H probably tore him a new one not only right after that through the headset, but after the show had ended. But, yeah, it was a good match, and that noticeable botch of Nigel McGuinness name-dropping Ring of Honor on TV, that was kind of hilarious. It was kind of hilarious on that front, but, so after that, we come to the hands down, no questions asked, match of the night. You had the Authors of Pain defending their NXT Tag Team Championships against #DIY and The Revival. And before I actually get into my thoughts on this match, because my god, this was amazing. But, all throughout the night, all three championship matches actually started with new belts being unveiled. Now, there have been theories that this has to do with the fact that they were planning on replacing the Women's Championship belt after the whole Paige incident happened. I'm not really going to be talking about that because that's not something I really think I have to talk about at this point. Anyways, back to the match itself, and my god, Revival and DIY, you knew this was going to be a good match. But I think having both those teams involved in this match really forced the Authors of Pain to step up their game. Because you had some insane spots, like DIY and the Revival hitting a quadruple powerbomb on Razor through a table that was set up on the outside. That was amazing. So basically you had Gargano and Ciampa just trying to hit a powerbomb on Razor, who was holding on to the ropes. Then the Revival came and just knocked him off and helped him land down, helped him put him through the table. And then he had a spot, a really close call with Scott Dawson locking in a reverse figure 4 on, I think it was Akam, and then Gargano locking in his finisher, the Gargano Escape, it was locked in on Akam, and Razor broke the hold. You had Johnny Gargano and Scott Dawson hitting DIY's super kick knee combo finish, and then Ciampa and Tommaso Ciampa and Dash Wilder hitting the Shatter Machine. That was cool. And then DIY was probably the first team. They were the first team to be eliminated after the Authors of Pain hit the last chapter on Ciampa. And I think that kind of killed the crowd at this point. The rest was still a good match, I think. But I think having DIY get eliminated and making the final thing like the heel Authors of Pain versus, I guess, a tweener Revival. By the way, the Revival were called up after this match. That was a very awesome debut there on Raw that night. And then shortly after that, the Revival hit hit 2 power bombs on the double power bomb on the Revival. The crowd was basically booing the crap out of the Authors of Pain at that point, because I guess they wanted to see the Authors and DIY at that point, or maybe they wanted to see the Revival versus DIY at the end of it. But the match ended after that. The match ended when the Authors of Pain hit the Super Collider, that really dangerous-looking powerbomb sandwich on the Revival. I'm still not crazy about the fact they do that move, because I remember them giving a jobber team, someone from a jobber team, a serious concussion by dropping his partner on his head, by basically powerbombing his partner onto the person who got the concussion, onto his head. That's one of the main reasons why I'm not crazy about the Authors of Pain, but, this, like I said, this was still a good match. I apologize if I'm rambling a little, but, let's just say this isn't the first time I've tried to record this today, and I've had a couple interruptions. Anyways, after that, we have we had the second of the 3 championship matches and the NXT Women's Championship match. And of course, you had the new NXT Women's Championship belt. I'll give my thoughts on the new belts after I talk about the main event. But this match was pretty good. Asuka, and this is definitely one of the better Asuka matches I've seen in a long time. And I was actually shocked to see Asuka actually retain her title, but the way it happened, I actually like where they're going with it. It kind of seems like since NXT Takeover Toronto, since the build-up for NXT Takeover Toronto, it seems like they've subtly been hinting that Asuka's maybe starting to turn heel. Like, there was a lot more cockiness in that she felt like no one on the NXT women's roster could take her out. Even, they were bringing in wrestlers. They brought in Thea Trinidad. They brought in Mickie James. And none of these women could take her out. And everyone thought, oh, it's gonna be, they put her in a fatal 4-way against Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, and Nikki Cross. They were continually stacking the odds against her. And everyone thought it was gonna build up with Ember Moon winning the title here in Orlando. And then Ember tried to go up for the Eclipse, only for Asuka to push the ref and knock into the ropes and knock Ember down, so Asuka could hit one of her roundhouse kicks, and then the match right there. And like I said, this is probably one of the best Asuka matches I've seen yet. After that, we had a little shot. They had a little shot to the crowd, and we had a surprise reveal. Drew Galloway, aka Drew McIntyre, was in the crowd, and it turns out he is now signed with NXT. I'd also like to point out that Drew McIntyre is also the current, I haven't seen WCPW State of Emergency, so I don't know if he's dropped the title, but as far as I know right now, Drew McIntyre is still the current WCPW champion. Actually, I'm going to look that up right now. Yep, Drew Galloway is still technically the WCPW champion, so I don't know if they vacated the title, or if Galloway had one more appearance in his WCPW contract beforehand, but this was definitely a surprise in a good way. It's cool to see. Well, I'm so used to calling him Galloway now, but it's cool to see Drew McIntyre back in WWE and him going straight to NXT. I think it's a mixed bag, because on the one hand, he's already been to developmental and stuff, and I don't think he really needs to adjust back to the WWE style, but I don't know. I'm not a booker for WWE, so I don't know how this stuff works. And after that, we come to the main event of the evening. Shinsuke Nakamura hoping to take back his NXT championship from Bobby Roode. And the entrances here, probably one of the more underwhelming entrances for Nakamura. It's just him doing a traditional wrestling entrance behind a sheet that was just hanging in front of the entrance. While Bobby Roode got 2 dueling pianos, and everyone was making the jokes about Rebby Hardy, we'll take your Rebby Hardy and raise you 2. But this match itself, definitely better, I won't say it was the flat-out weakest match on the card. I think that one went to, Aleister Black and Andrade Cien Almas. Though this one was probably a very close second. A lot of this match was Roode kind of going after Shinsuke Nakamura's knee. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember much about this match aside from that. I'm looking at my Twitter and all I'm seeing is clothesline. Nakamura tries to go for the Kinshasa, but Roode ducked and and hit a chop block on the injured knee. Roode locked in a figure 4. And in the end, Roode basically won after he went for the ring bell. Nakamura hit Roode with a roundhouse kick, went for the Kinshasa, but it got counted into a spinebuster, and then Roode hit the glorious DDT off, I can't remember if it was the top rope or the middle rope, to retain his title. It was still a good match, don't get me wrong, but looking back on it now, I still think it was probably one of the weaker matches on the card. I don't know if, very much like Aleister Black and Andrade Cien Almas, I don't know if It's just that Rude and Nakamura don't click or whatever it is, but... And that was kind of it for the show. As for the titles itself, I kind of like the old school kind of design with them. I know TWK of TWK Reviews was telling me he didn't like how similar they all look. And I guess I can agree with that. I don't like the whole uniformity of the titles. Kind of looks a little boring and too much like UFC, which if people like the uniformity thing and trying to be more like UFC, good on them. I'm just happy we don't have more palette swaps of the main roster titles. Because, quite frankly, I would have been kind of pissed at that. Because it's lazy, and when you start seeing every single title that looks exactly the same, you start realizing, like, yeah, that's kind of boring. So yeah, that's kind of it for the show. Like I said, I'm not going to be really doing any WrestleMania review outside of my very, very brief thoughts that I gave at the beginning of the show, as well as the fact that Tex Rockwell's worst nightmare has come true, and Mojo Rawley when Mojo Rawley had won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. The hype was so real I couldn't even form a coherent sentence there. Yeah, not really much else I can say about that. So, what did you guys think of NXT Takeover Orlando and WrestleMania 33? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys would like to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter at KiraKennedyHNR, Tumblr at KiraKennedyHNR.tumblr.com, and of course you can always check out my Facebook page at Facebook.com/KiraKennedyReviews. And I just realized I forgot to mention something about the main event. Nakamura got a standing ovation and a send-off, and he's on SmackDown now. I don't know how long that's going to last because of, again, the superstar shakeup that's happening on Monday the 10th of April, 2017, which will be 2 days after I record and probably post this video. But seeing Nakamura on SmackDown, that was pretty awesome. So, I did my social media plugs. If you'd like to check out any of my past work, my Let's Plays, my stream archives, even my reviews, you can do so at peanutbutterdisaster.com. And you can also check me out at twitch.tv/KiraKennedyPBD, where every Friday I do a game stream. Probably going to be Binding of Isaac again this week, but who knows? So, as always, I'm Kira Kennedy, and thank you for watching.
Peanut butter disaster.